And it's exactly what we do in, let's say, continuously deploying our, let's say, globally distributed core network to be everywhere where the customer are.
On this episode of Embedded Insiders, we're talking about connectivity within the IoT ecosystem with Transitel's Cedric Jarkovsky, Director of Product Development and IoT Business. We're highlighting next-generation eSIMs and private 5G networks, end-to-end monitoring and AI anomaly detection, and unified IoT management. Next, Rich is joined by Aptiv's Senior VP and Chief Product Officer, Deepali Trehan, to discuss the clear distinction between intelligent mobility and autonomous drive, and how Aptiv is applying the former to many platforms that are not automobiles. But first, Ken is back from Microelectronics US in Austin, Texas, giving us a recap of the sessions he moderated and the overall turnout of the event. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Embedded Insiders podcast. I'm your assistant managing editor, Tiara Oliver, and I'm back with our editor-in-chief, Ken Briota. He was gone last week, as you may have noticed if you listened to last week's podcast, but he's back.
And if you didn't, go back and listen to it. How dare you skip an episode?
Exactly. We have to stay on track.
That's right. Last week I was in Austin in Texas for a new show. Well, it's a spin-off show really from, it's called Microelectronics US. It spun off of last year's Microelectronics UK in London, or just outside of London, something like that. Anyway, and it was a great little show. It was in the Palmer Events Center, which has been around forever in Austin, and I've somehow never gone to an event there, so it was a new venue for me. Really cool show, something like 50 or 60 odd exhibitors. I didn't take an exact count, but that's my estimate. And a good amount of attendees. They had 3 theaters all in the same exhibit hall room, so nobody was leaving the room to go do other stuff, so everybody was really concentrated. The energy was great. We had good attendance. At least to me, it felt like there was a lot of activity happening. I had some great meetings, great talks with folks about, everything from, edge AI to like, there was like industrial microscope folks there that I talked to for a little bit. And so I moderated 2 sessions, 2 panels in the embedded track at the Embedded Theater, which is very cool. One was sort of on the industry as a whole, a sort of State of the Union kind of thing, and we talked in that a lot about about AI and the edge, as you might imagine. And the other was on industrial automation, and that was a fun panel. Also, we had a really good discussion on sort of how industrial automation is changing and growing on the various verticals and industries that are taking good advantage of technology and the ones that are maybe falling behind. And really interesting prediction from one of our panelists who was saying that she has seen the potential for a rise in automation in the sort of textiles, clothing industry. It's very sort of hands production now. And she thinks that there's going to be a rise in automation in that sector. So really cool show altogether. I expect it to grow a lot if, when they come back. And I would not be surprised to see this become quite a big show in short order.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just going to ask if they're planning to be back next year, maybe in the same place.
I believe they're planning to be back next year. I don't know about the same place. The Austin Convention Center, as I'm sure lots of folks have noticed or heard about, is currently torn down. They're rebuilding a brand new convention center there. The old one was quite old. So this is going to be, a energy efficient, LEED certified, all that sort of thing. And that's not due to be finished, I believe, until 2028. Don't quote me on that. So if they're going to be back in Austin, I would not be surprised if they stay in the Palmer Center. There's still room to grow in there for the next couple of years. But if they grow the way I think they might, look for them to be in the big convention center in 3 to 4 years, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a real testament to industry growth. They're coming from UK and bringing it to the US. So we have a lot more shows going on out here, and
Well, I mean, I'm a big proponent of live trade show marketing, trade shows. I think they're good for any industry, and the embedded shows that are really big don't happen in the US right now, and that's interesting. We have a couple of big shows. Obviously, CES has a lot of embedded there. The auto shows have a lot of automotive embedded there. But none of those are dedicated to the embedded industry specifically. Now, there are vendor shows. You've got NVIDIA GTC. You've got a few other bigger name companies that have their own ecosystem show, but that's not the same thing as a sort of vendor neutral, all comers are welcome kind of show. And so we've got Automate, which happens in Chicago in the next couple of weeks coming up. We've got Embedded World North America, which is going into its 3rd year, I believe, this upcoming September. That'll be in Anaheim again, as it was last year, although it's typically in November. This time it won't be because they got bumped for the World Cup in Los Angeles, I believe. So there just wasn't space. So they're going to be in September this year and then back to November the following year. That was another show that actually launched in Austin and had to move to Anaheim because of the convention center rebuild. They were one of the last shows in the old convention center, which is kind of fun. And that show's hopefully also growing. So those plus this new microelectronics show and Sensors Converge, which is, I believe, next week, are all, close to the same size, within a margin of error. None of them has gotten big, Embedded World Germany big, or CES big, or any of the really truly large shows. Even Computex in Taiwan is bigger than any of those shows. So it'll be interesting. I think we've got a little bit of a race on our hands, a little competitive race to see which of those 4 shows is going to grow to be the biggest one in the embedded space and where the focus will be, because each one of them has a slightly different focus. Embedded World North America is, of course, the most general. Microelectronics is obviously focusing on the microcontrollers, the silicon side, and the board side. Sensors Converge focuses obviously more on the edge sensor IoT side. And Automate is obviously very industrial focused. And so it's very, very interesting which of them, if any of the 4, really become a big leader. It's going to be an interesting couple of years to watch how this goes. And of course, we will be covering, although we don't have anyone going to Sensors Converge this time. Timing just didn't work out. We have a couple of folks who will be at Automate in a few weeks. And of course, our whole team will be Embedded World North America in September. So yeah, it should be good.
Sounds good. You heard that, everyone. Keep an eye out on our site for all of our coverage of these events and upcoming events, and stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tira, as always, and thanks to you folks out there listening. While you're poking around, if you want to get a little inside look at what Microelectronics US was like, go on over to our YouTube channel. We've got my In Case You Missed It from last week is all live from the show floor there, so you can check that out.
Now, here's Cedric Jarkowski, Director of Product Development and IoT Business at Transitel. So, hello, Cedric, and welcome to the Embedded Insiders podcast. Before we get started into some of my questions, do you mind giving the audience a bit about yourself, your background and your role at Transitel?
With pleasure. First, thank you for having me here. Very happy to participate to this podcast. So I'm Cedric Jarkowski. I'm currently heading the product and marketing activities for our IoT and automotive business within Transitel. I've been working for NTT Transitel for the past 8 years and a half, and I've got 25 years of experience in mobile and IoT services, either through system integrator, mobile operator, and more recently with Transitel through an MVNO approach.
Awesome. And for the listeners who aren't familiar with Transitel, can you give us some background on what the company does and kind of where it fits in the IoT ecosystem?
Absolutely. So the company was founded 26 years ago, so not exactly, very recent activities. But we started our journey in IoT around 2010, when we started delivering some key critical components to mobile operators so that they could start their own IoT business. One of the examples of what we did was with BT or EE at the time. And at the time, we capitalized on our DNA, that was to manage large projects and complex integration with mobile operator in order to deliver those bits and pieces that were critical for them to start their business in there. And from 2015, we actually started to sell a global connectivity service ourselves, capitalizing on our experience on platform development and core network management. We addressed first use case that year with first project like connectivity for point of sales. Obviously, at the time, it was a very popular use case, and also more complex project with the first customer that was Airbus when we connected the aircraft directly. So capitalizing on those first experience, we entered into the connected car business in 2017. To be honest, that's one of the most, complex and demanding use case that you can find in, IoT connectivity due to the large scope of services that you have to enable for this use case, up to voice for emergency calls. We also launched our own, travel eSIM business in 2017. It's called UBG and it's still active. In case you want to stay connected while you're traveling, that's definitely a good and efficient and affordable service across the globe. But it was initially launched as an add-on to the connected car use case, so that we could provide connectivity to the end user inside the car. And from there, we actually have been growing quite rapidly. And as of today, we connect around 10 million assets, capitalizing on our key technical competence. Which is formalized around the fact that we have our own network codes and telecom resource that we manage. We have a globally distributed core network to ensure best performance everywhere in the world. And we also, capitalize on our own connectivity management platform.
Awesome. And I guess what would you say are some of the main challenges, your company is trying to tackle today, maybe surrounding remote provisioning for next generation eSIMs and private 5G networks, or, outside of that as well?
Okay, so I think what our company is uniquely positioned to do is actually we are a mobile virtual network operator. So our role is pretty much to decouple the connectivity service from the mobile network. And for this, we capitalize on hundreds of agreements with mobile operator, and we use our network across the globe to connect the assets of our customers. But the service we provide is actually agnostic from the underlying mobile carriers. And this is the kind of flexibility that customers are looking at, especially for the use case in IoT where you have to deal with fixed assets. So customers are not only looking for the best-in-class connectivity service, but they're also looking for a service that could evolve throughout the lifetime of a device. Some of the device and the assets we connect are there to stay a few years, if not 10 to 15 years. So we have to provide, let's say, the flexibility to connect to the best network, not only when the device is deployed, but also throughout the lifetime. And this is the experience we provide. And let's say we do not choose for our customer. Our customer are choosing the best network through our platform based on the best compromise between coverage, cost, overall experience. And they can pilot this throughout the lifetime of the device. And this is really something that they look at. And this is related to some of the challenges that you were mentioning. Because sometimes, let's say the best solution is to switch from one profile to another, is to switch from public network to private network. And this is the kind of experience that we can perfectly, let's say, accommodate. Why is that? Is because we have the full control of our technical stack, which means that we have full capability to adapt to more complex or more demanding requirements. And we have also the capability to be agile in the way we technically integrate not only our resource, but third-party resources. One example of that is you mentioned private network. So obviously, let's say large industrial players are willing to not only capitalize on, let's say, the public network that are out there, but when they set up a private network, they intend to use it as well, because that's the way to better control the quality of service and the cost, let's say, in the areas of the campus, or the airport, or I would say the assembly line in which they deploy this private network. And we can accommodate with that, meaning that our technical capability allows to incorporate the private network of our customers in, let's say, the global coverage that they can benefit from us. And this is how we allowed, for instance, let's say, airlines to capitalize on airport private networks so that they could connect their aircraft, their, let's say, the devices of their employees and everything. So it's the fact that we can, let's say, be very flexible in the way we can design the coverage and integrate third-party services into our connectivity services that makes us, I think, kind of unique on the market. And of course, we also support the new remote SIM provisioning standards, so namely the so-called SGP32. We actually embraced every, let's say, standard whenever they were released. We don't see this as a threat. For us, it's an opportunity to better serve our customer and to provide them even more flexibility.
Awesome. So, I mean, obviously, security and AI are big topics in most industries. I kind of just want to know what are some of the benefits you believe are of securing IoT deployments with end-to-end monitoring and even AI anomaly detection.
So I think you're spot on. Those are the two key critical set of capabilities that we're currently putting our efforts to make available to our customers. So the first is security services. And then is data and AI-based services. So on security, because your question was there, so we implement security not only on our network, so ourselves with our own equipment, our own services, our own teams, and of course we have a security operations center, but we also integrate into the security stack some key partners. And we recently announced, by the way, that we were completely embracing the 5G SASE elements of security. And we're doing this in collaboration with three major security vendors, so namely Palo Alto, Zscaler, and Fortinet. And they have, let's say, those three players, which are definitely key players in this world, recognize in Transatel a key partner in order to combine our technical capabilities with their security solution to provide a real end-to-end security. But security can also be integrated at every level of the solution. We start to integrate security at the SIM card level by adopting the IoT Safe standard. That is a way pretty much to use the SIM card as a security element in order to store some credentials, in order to secure the identity of a device. And that's also contributing to the overall approach. And on data and AI-based services, they are definitely becoming key and also contributing to the security aspect, by the way. So we started to implement this for our own needs because, let's say, through the network components that we operate, we generate a lot of events and a lot of data. And this data, let's say, has a lot of value. It started with us. So we use this value in order to recognize, let's say, specific patterns that could be considered as anomaly in our customer using our network. And that was a way to detect more rapidly some potential problems or incidents, and also to anticipate some of those incidents. Because through, for instance, traffic patterns or data session patterns, we could recognize some anomaly and be more proactive into operating our own network. And then once we experimented those capacity, we actually provide those capacity to some customers as well. And this is a key value to see. Why is that? Because not only we can inform them once we detect an anomaly on the system, on some of the devices, for instance, not behaving correctly. This might lead to some security threats that we can warn them on. But not only that, we can also provide some kind of quality control. Because on top of detecting anomaly and reporting those anomalies to customers and trying to manage them with them, we can also correlate anomaly management with some data, metadata that they provide to us. And those metadata can be device type, version of the software installed on the device, of the firmware, of some critical elements. And through that, we can not only detect anomalies out of the blue, but we can also spot what could be the root cause of those anomalies by integrating this intelligence and this data from our customers. So those are some of the key elements in which we can provide end-to-end security. So pretty much from the SIM to the network, and throughout also some third-party security experts that bring end-to-end security to our customers.
So you spoke a bit about obviously the importance of collecting data for your customers. I kind of just want to know and of course, managing all these complex connected devices, what does that look like for a unified IoT device or unified IoT management? Yeah.
So you're right. The IoT is a complex value chain. Let's say starting with a device, let's say most of the time bundles with, let's say one connectivity service, but more and more several connectivity service, let's say that they cohabit on the device or that are used by the device depending on the circumstances. Because now we introduce satellites as a way that is integrated within the mobile world with the new Release 17 technology, and we also introduce Wi-Fi offload as another way to connect as well. So the connectivity itself is becoming more and more complex, combining more way to connect. And that is a great opportunity for the customers, because at the end of the day, they will receive a more comprehensive and a better performance service, and also better tailored to the requirements of each asset. But connectivity alone is no longer enough to be considered. Of course, it has to be completely integrated within the device, but that means that we have to consider, you mentioned unified IoT management. For me, I consider connectivity management has to be fully combined with device management and security management, to say the least, because this is throughout the combination of those three elements that you can actually manage let's say the critical component of the IoT solution. And this is exactly our spirit and our approach, and how we let's say, we help our customers to combine those three elements, so device management, security management, connectivity management, into a single service, single managed service that we think we can be more efficient in helping our customer deploy, let's say, and maintain their critical assets connected.
So looking towards the future, I kind of just want to know, where do you see Transitel, going, and what challenges do you see the company kind of tackling throughout the next couple of years? The biggest opportunities in IoT connectivity, evolving over the next few years.
So, like I mentioned already, let's say connectivity is no longer, let's say, a one-size-fits-all solution.
Mhm.
It will be a combination of solutions, protocol, technology that will allow the device to stay connected. So I mentioned already, let's say, satellite, Wi-Fi being combined with mobile into a coherent offer so that it can be easily consumed. I think as of today, let's say we're doing, let's say, POC, small deployments, but let's say in the months and years to come, we think that let's say all of those aspects will be, let's say, fully combined into a coherent offer. The second big trend on the market is we think that the new eSIM technology, SGP32, will allow to accelerate also on the flexibility. To combine several types of connectivity into a coherent offer. So even if we only focus on mobile and IoT connectivity, by having the real capability that is offered by this new standard to switch profile is actually a good opportunity to, let's say, adapt the solution to specific regional constraints and to continuously optimize the solution. And to that, actually, what we have developed is, let's say, a new solution, a so-called aggregation platform that is capable of interacting with third-party, let's say, connectivity solution, so that everything could be combined into something that is very easy to consume towards customer. Mm-hmm. And we think that is definitely another big market trend. And of course, the other big market trend is the increase of the data consumed per device. Mm-hmm. IoT used to be about very small messages sent by devices, and yes, this is still the case for, let's say, some smart meters and so on and so forth. But what we see is the industry moving towards IoT broadband type of use case, because as of today, we accommodate. We mentioned connected car, let's say connected dash cam, machine vision type of use case with let's say video being transmitted, if not real time, in real time through cellular connectivity. And that means that the average amount of data that will be transmitted from a device through the network to the application layer of the customer will increase. And for this, what we see is we have to accommodate this use case, and it's exactly what we do in, let's say, continuously deploying our, let's say, globally distributed core network to be everywhere where the customer are. So our strategy is to continuously expand our network capacity so that we can scale up for, let's say, the 10 million devices that we have today to 15 million and moving forward. But on top of the capability to connect, let's say, a huge amount of devices, let's say the challenge also comes from the fact that the network has to cope with more and more data exchange with, let's say, the ability to provide, let's say, better and better performance. So, of course, in this context, let's say we're currently deploying, let's say, a fully 5G SA compatible network that will help, because that will allow us to provide a quality on demand type of service in order to accommodate the more, let's say, stringent and demanding use case. So that is definitely another big trend that we see for the next few years. So pretty much increasing the amount of devices, of data exchange, of performance, while still staying flexible, agile, and of course affordable, because let's say the economics stays on, let's say, IoT use case a critical aspect.
Now, here's Deepali Trehan, Aptiv's Senior VP and Chief Product Officer.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Embedded Executive Podcast. My name is Rich Ness. I am with Embedded Computing Design. This week, my guest is Deepali Trehan. She is the Senior Vice President and Chief Product Officer for Aptiv. How you doing, Deepali?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for asking, Rich.
So in full disclosure, you and I actually met before you started at Aptiv. I don't know if we knew each other before you were at Altera, but I know that we had some great conversations with you at Altera, and it's Aptiv's win to have you as part of their team. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get too gushing or anything. But what I'd like to start, I assume people know who Aptiv is, but you know what happens when you assume. So let's just very quickly explain what Aptiv is all about.
Yeah, Rich, these are really, really exciting times in the industry overall, and especially for Aptiv, because we are focused on scaling intelligent mobility across industries. And we have, now decades of experience in automotive, but now we are evolving from a traditional automotive supplier into a diversified industrial technology company and partner of choice that is focused on bringing intelligence at the edge. So that's what we do. If you recall, funny story I tell a lot of people was back when I started my career at Texas Instruments, my very first project was with Delphi, and Delphi is the new Aptiv, is now Delphi. And so, this was back in 2005, and fast forward 20 years, it just feels like a full circle. Here I am at Aptiv now, just transitioning and driving bigger impact in terms of bringing intelligence to the edge with our technology.
Now you're talking, you use the term intelligent mobility. Is that different from autonomous drive?
Well, I would say it's not, because if you look at what is a car, in my view, it's a robot on wheels. So anywhere you see mobility, anywhere, whether it's a car or it's a robot, it's a cobot or a drone, anywhere you see mobility, Aptiv can be the partner of choice for those customers and those systems that need that technology. Our mission here is to enable systems to sense, think, act, and optimize safely and securely over mission critical industries. That's what we do.
Okay. So what I know about Aptiv has a lot to do with automotive and autonomous drive. And where I think you're going, if from all the things I've read, you're taking that technology and bringing that to non-automotive applications, things that can really benefit from autonomous drive, especially in the industrial space. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so the three things that we are trying to do at Aptiv, one, and first and foremost, I'll say, is we are bringing intelligence to the edge at scale, and this is where the entire physical AI comes to life, powering devices that sense, think, act, and optimize, spanning the entire spectrum of mobility and automation, from vehicles to drones to factory robots, automation, and so on. Second thing I'll say, Rich, is we are leading beyond automotive. So we are at a powerful inflection point where we are evolving from being just the automotive partner of choice for the world leading OEMs to now becoming the mobility leader, shaping multiple industries. If you look at our decades of experience, just our ADAS portfolio alone is deployed at more than 70 million vehicles out there. And so now we are extending that integrated hardware and software expertise into these other areas. And the third thing I'll say is we are building these AI native software defined systems If you look at the world, what's happening is it's moving more and more towards AI software defined, as well as AI native systems, and we are out in front. Our approach unites the scalable compute, AI driven capabilities, and modular software platforms to deliver the adaptability and real time intelligence that these modern industries require. So, those are the three things I'll say. So, to your point, yes, we are leading beyond automotive. In fact, some of the recent announcements that you might have seen with robust AI and Vecna robotics, our sensor technologies, the perception technologies are now being deployed into these areas.
So there's a question that I'm supposed to ask at the beginning and I always forget. So I'll ask you now, even though we're into this. You've talked about the edge a lot. What is the edge to you? Define the edge from the Aptiv perspective.
Edge is where the decisions are made, where the real action happens, where, if you look
But
at
is it on the system, or is it a platform on-prem, or are you talking about cloud?
Well, it's the entire system, right? We build the entire system from sensing to compute to software to networking. And so for us, the definition of edge is wherever sometimes our customers are building systems where their decisions have to be made in real time. That's how we define edge. It can be in the car, it can be in the robot when it's getting deployed in the factory systems. Wherever the decisions are made, that's how we define edge, and we are bringing that intelligence to the edge.
Okay. Here's where I tend to lose a lot of friends when I ask you the questions that I say that I won't ask you, but I ask you anyway. If we're having this exact same conversation 18 months from now, what are we talking about?
Well, I think 18 months from now, the world is changing so fast, right? You and I can both agree. I think 18 months from now, we will see a lot of our technology being deployed in systems beyond automotive. I see our technology, the entire modular technology stack, starting from sensors to compute to operating system to AI models, as well as cloud tooling, being there out and about in robots and drones. Certainly, we are advancing our technology within ADAS and automotive. Of course, I cannot share the specifics of the
course.
products, but I see massive scale deployment of our portfolio in industries, not only in areas where we are playing within automotive, but even beyond. Like I said, robotics, drones, factory automation. As you know, we have in River in our umbrella as well, and their footprint is in a lot of these industries already. So and they complement, the technology that they bring to the table, plus the Aptiv key core competencies coming together, enable this entire modular tech stack that can solve a lot of these problems that we see in these other industries. And I see massive proliferation in all of those.
Are we at a point today where the hardware and the software are working in harmony, or is it more like, I know people that can't see my hands, but is it hardware up here and software playing catch up? Is it vice versa, or are we in lockstep today?
I think gone are those days when we would say that, it's used to be a hardware defined system, right? So now we are living in a world where we have to comprehend the software capabilities right at the time when we are defining the product. So a lot of the product definition piece in my job in my current role is to make sure that the differentiation aspects that we want to bring in and our overall product offering comprehends both the hardware as well as the software. And so, in my view, they have to work in lockstep. In many cases, yes, the ease of software, over the air updates can happen throughout the life cycle. We call it as a life cycle management, but you have to comprehend how they are going to operate together in tandem from the get-go. It's not like you come up with your hardware solution and later on deploy software. It's just a bolt on. It's not to begin with, comprehended as a design-in function. And that is one of the biggest things we are driving as a change in the way we approach our product development. Software-defined vehicles, software-defined everything, AI-enabled everything. Those things have to be articulated at the architecture level from the get-go.
Mhm. You mentioned that Wind River is part of the portfolio of Aptiv, and I don't know if people in the audience knew that, but they should. Does that make that question easier to answer, that you have one of the leaders in this space
Yeah.
providing and I won't just say the software, but the framework for all the things that we're talking about?
Yeah, Rich, I would say that we've held a leading position in automotive sensors and compute for over decades, right? And our software application layer across active safety and digital cockpit is equally capable as well as proven. And with the acquisition of Wind River, we've filled out that stack with robust operating system and cloud platform. And if you look at one of the recent announcements we did, where Aptiv, Wind River, and Verizon working together on V2X, which is a vehicle to everything, which was unveiled at MWC at Barcelona in 2026. This system allows vehicles to share sensor data through radar and camera perception through Verizon's 5G mobile edge compute, enabling vehicles to see beyond line of sight. So again, this is one of the examples I'm giving. It's just the art of possible, right? So when you have the perception technologies along with ADAS compute and everything that we have on the Aptiv, the classic Aptiv side, combine that with the operating system and the cloud tooling capabilities from Wind River, now you have something that can deliver the effect of 1 + 1 = greater than 3. And we are seeing that in this great example. I don't know how much you have read about vehicle to everything with Verizon announcement that Aptiv and Wind River did together, creating a scalable
Mhm.
software-defined network safety ecosystem is what I call it.
I feel like we waited for 5G forever. And now that it's finally here, people are like, yeah, is this really what we need, or are we waiting for 6G? What's your answer to that?
I think we are still in the very much early innings of 6G. 6G deployment, we've been talking about it. It's been here for a while. But I think it's going to be, when it comes, it's going to be coming as a faster wave, in my view. But our technology is going to be a key enabler, whether it's 6G, whether it's, you know, all all the other areas that we are looking at. The leading 5G virtual RAN and open RAN deployments in the world today are powered by Wind River software, already enabling intelligent real-time orchestration and lifecycle management of thousands of virtualized network nodes. So I think whether you say it's here or imminent, it's imminent, and we have been ready, and our Wind River technology is already out and about to enable that.
So let's go back to the 18 months out. If we're looking at a factory, we should not be surprised if it's fully autonomous.
We should not be surprised. I think the adoption
Well,
always
let me
takes
re-ask
time.
the question. Should
Yeah,
we be surprised if it's not fully autonomous?
we shouldn't be surprised because adoption always take a slightly longer, because there's always security and safety checks and so on. We shouldn't be surprised if it's not there. But given the world that we are living in, I mean, who would have comprehended today what it looks like, let's say 18 months ago, right? So
Hmm.
we just have to embrace, and I think in the world that we are living in, AI is everywhere, and the idea of autonomous and real-time decision making is going to get proliferated in every aspect of what we do. So I again, it's going to be not because the technology is not there. It's going to be mostly because whether, how these cybersecurity, security, and safety regulations come about.
Very good. Well, thank you, Deepali. This is so exciting, and I wrote down on my calendar that to have you back on the podcast in 18 months, and we're going to replay this first, and we're going to see if we were right on or not.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just say one last thing, Rich. Aptiv's leadership in auto, in expansion that we are trying to drive in commercial vehicles, in robotics, in drones, in factory automation, global markets, full stack edge AI capabilities, the strategic Wind River technology and competency that we have. We are transforming, we are poised to transform, and we are transforming into a global intelligent systems company, not just an automotive supplier of choice for our customers. So we're very excited about our journey ahead.
So I was just about to end, but I want to keep going here because that's a very interesting point. Is it, are you trying to be a little bit of all things to all people with what you're trying to do, as opposed to having a singular focus?
I think it's not about being a little bit of everything for every market. It's about having a core competency in technology and coming to a realization that that technology stack and the architecture can solve similar problems in a differentiated way and in these other areas. It's about bringing in value. It's about delivering value to our customers. That's what we are after. And in fact, these customers, Robust, Vecna, these are coming to us to solve difficult problems. And our pulse sensor technology, I don't know how much you've read about it. It's award-winning. The idea of combining the radar and camera all into a small footprint, it can solve the same problem that it's solving in the cars in these other areas. So it's all about, it just boils down to solving our customers' problems, and customers come from everywhere.
That's great stuff. Thank you very much. You answered even most of the questions that I said I wasn't going to ask. So I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you.
That was Deepali Trehan. She is the Senior Vice President and Chief Product Officer for Aptiv, and I am Rich Nass with Embedded Computing Design.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Embedded Insiders. For more daily news, videos, and podcasts, visit our website at embeddedcomputing.com.